Hi, this is Tessa Keogh, and this is Tuesday's Tip in the Legacy Virtual Users Group community. Back in April, we provided 5 suggestions from the Welcome Wagon. And these I thought were kind of helpful tips to get you started, especially if you were new here, either at Google Plus or at our community. And then, as often happens with Google, they up and changed everything on May 15th. And the slightly amusing thing about that was I had provided you with a Tuesday's tip telling you to check out Hangouts and be prepared, and our Hangout was scheduled for the 16th, and right in the middle of that, Google switched up everything. And some of you had trouble finding the Hangout, others of you had trouble commenting during the Hangout, and some of you just got lost. So one of the things I said I'd do is make this week's Tuesday's tip all about Google's changes and how they go with our community. So first of all, I wanted to welcome anyone who's joined recently, and this might be your first Tuesday's tip. So I hope you watch the video. I hope you take a look at some of the earlier videos, and they might help you get a sense of who we are, what we're doing, and make you feel a little bit more comfortable here. So suggestion number 1 is introductions all around. You're going to notice that the space changed. So if you come to the communities, and the way you're going to do that is click on communities over here in your stream, and you're going to see that everything moved around. Now, depending on the width of your screen and how you have it set up, you might still have one column, or you might have what I do, which is 3 columns here. But take a look at the communities, and although everything moved around, we still have the same things. The most helpful thing to notice, and this will always stay at the top now, or at least until Google changes it again, is the About the Community section. So if you're new to our Legacy Virtual Users Group, take a look at our About section, and also realize that you can click on either one of these 2 links. The first one will take you to our site, and the second one will take you to my YouTube channel. And that's important because that's one of the places that you can watch our Hangouts. And then the other thing to keep in mind is running along the left-hand side of the stream are all of the topics. And for instance, you'll see this one is How Do I Do That? This one down here is Legacy Virtual User Group Hangouts. So take a look, and when you're going to be posting, make sure that you at least try to get it in the appropriate space. No worries if you don't, we can always move them to the correct space. Here's a little bit more on checking out the new space. I wanted to point out again, this is the area where you could search the community if you were looking for something in particular, perhaps tagging. And if there's any posts about that, they'll show up here. This is the listing of all of our topics, and one of the most important ones to take a look at right from the outside is the guidelines, because the guidelines will give you the lay of the land. And I would really appreciate it because our moderators spent a little bit of time coming up with these guidelines. If you take a look at them, and then after you've read the guidelines, if you would follow them. In our community, it's all about everybody working together and sharing and understanding what we're all about and what we post and what we don't post. Another helpful area is the membership group, and what you'll see here is the first few people have a little star. It's pretty hard to see actually in their avatar, and that means that the 3 of us here are the moderators. So if you have any questions or you're wondering about anything, you could always send us a message. But all of the membership is listed here, and the pictures will interchange, but you can also see all of the members by clicking on this link here. And as I mentioned before, always check out these links if you want to go to our site, either to look at the file cabinet where there's some slides or some helpful tips, or to go to the YouTube channel where you can see all of Tuesday's tips as well as all of the recorded Legacy Virtual Users Group Hangouts. The other interesting thing is, and this is just where it shows up in the stream, if you wanted to watch the Hangout here, this most recent Hangout, and they're all listed by LVUG Hangouts, all you need to do is click on this triangle. It will play here, or you could go and watch it in YouTube. if you've gone over to the YouTube channel, what you're going to find is this is my YouTube channel. And if you want to watch a live version while the Hangout's going on, what you do is you click on the feed section. And at the point where we go live, the live feed will show up and you can watch our Hangouts right here. You can also watch the earlier recorded ones as well as any of the Tuesday's tips. So this is where you want to come if you want to watch the recorded versions of anything or the live feed in YouTube. Please don't be a bluehead. If you don't put an avatar in, or if you don't put any information about yourself in the About section, it makes it really hard for me to add you to our circles. And it can be something as simple as genealogy in Maryland, or genealogist, or family historian, something to give me any sense of who you are. If we don't know anything about you, it's very difficult for us to want to circle you or add you to the group because we're not really sure of who you are. And finally, the fifth suggestion, be a good community member. Read the guidelines, introduce yourself, feel free to post anything related to legacy. Certainly if you have questions, tips, suggestions, maybe if you have ideas for what would be good Hangouts in the future. Be sure and comment and share. That's the only way that this community interacts. And finally, please be polite. Let's always assume the best of each other and realize that this is a huge sandbox here on Google Plus and at YouTube. There's plenty of room for everyone to play, and we all need to play nice. Now I thought we could go live so that you could see what I mean when I talk about us clicking around in things. So right now I am at the Legacy Virtual Users Group community, and as I've mentioned before, I turn the notifications off because I usually check in once or twice a day, first thing in the morning, maybe in the evening. I know some of the moderators do that as well, and so I don't want to get notifications pushed to me, but you might want to, so that's something you need to check out yourself. There's also a variety of settings here, and you need to take a look at those and see what kinds of settings you want. And as I mentioned, this is where you can search the community, and these are where the posts or the topics all start out as. This is always going to give you the About section now because Google moved things around, so you could go directly to my YouTube channel by clicking on this link, or you could go to our Legacy Virtual Users Group site. And a couple things that I'd point out. Jill Scott had a comment about how to do something in Legacy, and so she typed a post, and when you click on read more, you get the entire post that she put in. And so that's one thing you're going to want to do if it looks to you like it's been cut off, and it'll show up and you just click on the link. She had a question, she posted it. A number of people might have 1+ed it, and that just means that you've seen it, maybe you agree, just kind of an encouraging type of thing is 1+ing. But if you click on the comments, it will provide all of the comments that were here about this post. And she basically had a question for Linda McCauley, and then Linda answered it. You kind of got to see what she was talking about and that she answered the question. And that's one way to interact in our community. Another thing is to share a post, and this is exactly where you would type in, and what it does is it brings your potential post front and center for you to be typing. So if I were adding something here, I could type something in here. If I wanted to make sure that it got to the attention of a person, you start by typing plus and their name, and then if they're in your group, they'll show up. And you can just click on them and add them in here. And you might want to type your information. You might want to include a photo. You just click on this blue photo box to add a photo. You might want to click on adding a video. And that's what I do when I add the Legacy Virtual Users Group Hangouts, is I put a post in here. You might want to include a link to something else you want to draw everyone's attention to. Or you might want to schedule an event. This is the section here where you choose the topic, and by clicking on the down arrow you can choose what it might be. And once you chose it, it would just show up here. Now I'm not actually going to finish this, so I'm going to cancel, but if you wanted to share it once you were happy with it, that's exactly what you do, the green button. And I've mentioned this before to people. Green is usually go in Google, and red is usually take a look at this or something should stand out. So for instance, our one plussing stands out as well as Google Plus. And that was a little indication to go over to Google Plus, and you'll see now while I'm currently in the community, I'm going to go to the home screen, and this would be my home screen. And I had sent Megan a link basically and a picture showing her that a link that she gave us didn't work. But this is the type of thing that you can be looking at. You're going to notice that your upcoming events might be over in your second or third column depending on what you have, but this just lists a number of events that I might be attending as well as the schedule for it. Now if you click on this blue item here, it will give you any new posts since you've been on your home page. Alright, so the other thing to keep in mind is that this will bring up your profile, it will bring up the people in your various circles, it will bring up your photos. This is the area you want to pay attention to, which is communities. And if you ever decide to schedule a hangout on air, this is the place where you'd go. If you have other pages that you work with, this is the page that you'd look to. So the first thing that shows up is community invitations, and that's because Google is always wanting to remind you that there's some more communities you could be joining. The next section is the communities you already belong to, and if you just scroll down through, you'll see the various communities you belong to, and if there's a box that's red and it has a number in it, that tells you how many new posts are in that section. And so that's something that you're also going to want to take a look at, especially if you don't have your notifications pushed through to you. And then Google recommends various sites to you. And you can scroll down, and these look like cards now. But for instance, the United Kingdom, veterans, maybe politics, anything that they think you might be interested, usually based on your activity. And so there's any number of items here, and you can look through that, and if the community's open, you can just easily join the community. You can also search for communities right up here, so you could type in the words genealogy or family history and it would bring those in. Let's give that a go. All right, so a number of communities show up just by typing in the search genealogy, and then you just click on the ones you might be interested in looking at. So I would take a look at that and kind of work your way through it. You can also save that search so that if you want to come back to it later, you can. So if we go back home, I wanted to just point out that in this profile section, this is the kind of thing that you want to look at and you want to put some information in. This is my avatar or photo, and this is in the About section. And when you click here, you can put in as much or as little as you want, but if you do something like that, it's very helpful to the rest of us when we determine whether we should be adding you to our circles or not. Now, two other things I wanted to point out, and we'll go back to the home page, is this is the button that you click on to see your notifications if you want. So anyone who has commented on a post that you've made, or if you've been involved in any conversations, these are the notifications. And once you click on one, you can go through them and go back and close it out. The other thing you can do is click on this green quote mark, and it brings up the Hangouts. And this will tell you people that you've had previous Hangouts with, as well as this gives you the ability to set a snooze between 1 and 48 hours, as well as to sign out of Hangouts completely. But otherwise, you're able to see Hangouts that you've had and the people that you might have had conversations with. And then you just click on that button if you want to close it out. And so the thing that I would encourage everyone to do is just to click around on various sections, because if you go to these various areas, you're going to be taking a look at your own information, which is here, as well as the community information, which is right there. And when you go to your home section or your Google Plus section, it just shows up. It's as easy as that. So now we've taken a look at the Google Plus page that's your page. And you get to it by just clicking on this button here. And all of us have this toolbar running across the top, whether you have things in Drive or your Gmail account or perhaps your YouTube account. So just go ahead and click on this button, and that's how you get to your Google Stream. Now I wanted to show you here that if I went to the Tessa Keogh YouTube page, you would be able to see and to click on a Hangout. And for instance, I could bring up this just by clicking on it, bring this up. Now it shows me that it's a Hangout on air. It shows some other items, and if people had made comments here, and in fact some person did, they wondered where the feed was. This is what you would see. But I did want to point out that this screen is the first one, and it's this current size that you're looking at. You can also make the screen larger when you're watching the Hangout live, and you can make it be your entire screen. So you have a lot of ability to play with YouTube to monitor it. And then when you want to exit full screen, that's what you do, and you can bring it down to the small player. So I would encourage you to go in and take a look at YouTube and click through and just see how it works. But this is the section I wanted to show you. If you clicked on feed and we had gone live, that's where you'd see the Hangout to join. And it will just come up in your stream once a Hangout is live. That's the point of it. So that's what you want to be taking a look at, and I think that that should hopefully prove a little bit helpful to you. And I would just encourage you to click around in Google+. And if you have any questions about the Legacy Virtual Users Group with Google+, please let me know. Post your comments right here in this Tuesday's tip, and we'll get back to you. Thanks.